Imagine waking up on an ordinary Tuesday morning and feeling something genuinely strange. You brew your coffee, step outside, and suddenly realize that the heavy, invisible backpack you carried around for decades just slipped off your shoulders. The endless anxieties, the constant urge to fix everything, and the nagging fear of what tomorrow might bring have suddenly lost their sharp edges. That life-altering moment rarely arrives in your fiery 30s, and it almost never settles in during your busy 50s, when you are still knee-deep in raising families, climbing ladders, and managing chaos. It quietly sneaks up on you after you cross 70. For most of your life, the world feels like a noisy stadium. Everyone is shouting, pushing, and striving, and you spend your best years fighting to keep up with the volume. You worry about your career trajectory, your bank account balance, the opinion of your neighbors, and whether you are living up to everyone else's impossible standards. But then, an unsung shift takes place inside you. The background noise of the world doesn't just quiet down, it completely softens into a background hum. You stop picking fights with reality. You stop trying to control every outcome, and for the very first time in decades, a deep, unmistakable clarity takes over your entire mind. This profound transformation isn't about giving up, giving in, or growing tired of living. It is about waking up to a fundamental truth that most young people completely miss. Holding on tight does not guarantee a good life. In fact, the happiest, most vibrant, and most deeply content people in their 70s aren't the ones who accumulated the most possessions or held on to every old grudge with a vice grip. They are the individuals who mastered the gentle art of letting go. They finally figured out what was worth carrying into their twilight years and what was merely dead weight draining their energy. When you reach this stage of life, you realize that freedom doesn't come from getting everything you ever wanted. It comes from releasing the unnecessary junk you were taught to hold on to. Releasing those invisible burdens isn't a loss. It is the ultimate victory, because it gives you your time, your energy, and your true self back. Here are the 7 things that quietly lose their absolute power over you after 70, and why laying them down will be the single most freeing decision you will ever make. 1. The need to impress others. For decades, almost everything you do is a subtle performance designed for an audience. From the clothes you buy to the way you talk about your career, your achievements, and your family, you constantly fine-tune your life to look successful, sound smart, and earn approval. You carefully edit your words before speaking, curate your lifestyle to match society's expectations, and secretly worry about being judged for making a wrong move. It is an exhausting, full-time job that you never asked for, yet you spend the better part of 50 years clocking in every single day, just to fit in and feel valid. Then you hit 70, and the heavy mask you wore for half a century finally comes off. Something inside you snaps in the most peaceful way possible, and a sudden, hilarious truth slaps you in the face. You realize that while you were spending all those years panicking about what other people thought of you, those exact same people were far too busy panicking about themselves to pay attention to you. Everyone was so caught up managing their own insecurities, lives, and appearances that nobody was actually keeping score of yours. The harsh judgment you feared for decades was mostly just a shadow cast by your own anxious mind. Once that realization sinks in, your entire daily decision-making process changes instantly. You stop pausing to ask yourself, "What will the neighbors think?" or "Will this impress my peers?" Instead, you sit back, take a deep breath, and ask a far more honest question. Does this actually bring me peace? You stop buying things to show off, stop agreeing to events you secretly hate attending, and stop forcing yourself into conversations that drain your spirit. You wear what makes you feel comfortable, say what you truly mean, and spend your precious time doing what genuinely makes your heart light. That single mental pivot from seeking external approval to protecting your internal peace changes absolutely everything. You stop living your life like a stage play for strangers and start living it like a sanctuary for yourself. You finally taste the absolute, unrestricted freedom of simply being who you are, without offering a single apology or explanation to anyone else. 2. Always being right. There was a time when walking away from an argument felt like losing a piece of your dignity. You would spend hours replaying conversations in your head, crafting the perfect comeback, searching for facts, and pushing until the other person finally backed down and admitted you were right. Winning the debate felt like a necessity. Having the last word was proof that you were smart, capable, and in control. But as the decades roll on, you begin to notice a quiet, uncomfortable truth about those victories. Proving your point almost never makes you happy, and it almost always leaves a trail of unnecessary damage behind. By the time you pass 70, the thrill of winning a debate completely evaporates, replaced by a sudden realization of how exhausting it all really was. You look back and see how many family dinners were ruined, how many friendships were strained, and how much precious mental energy was wasted over arguments that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You realize that forcing someone to agree with you doesn't build a bridge, it builds a wall. Insisting on being right might give your ego a temporary thrill, but it costs you something infinitely more valuable: your inner peace and the warmth of your relationships. That is the exact moment when silence transforms into your ultimate superpower. You begin to step back from arguments before they even start. When someone makes an incorrect statement, drops a misinformed opinion, or tries to bait you into a debate, you simply smile, nod, and let it go. You don't stay quiet because you lack an opinion, nor do you stay quiet because you are too tired or confused to defend yourself. You stay quiet because you have reached a level of deep security where you no longer need the validation of being declared the winner. Choosing peace over victory is one of the most liberating habits you will ever build. You realize that people will believe what they want to believe, and it is not your life's mission to correct them. Letting other people have the last word doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. You walk away with your spirit calm, your energy intact, and your heart light, leaving the drama behind you where it belongs. 3. Regret about the past. It is almost impossible to reach your 70s without carrying a heavy suit of armor made of regrets. Everyone walks into their later years with a long mental list of things they wish had gone differently. You think about the career path you didn't take, the relationship you let slip through your fingers, the money you lost, or the words you wish you had swallowed or said out loud decades ago. You can spend years playing the painful game of what if, replaying old scenes in your head, revising the script, and imagining how much better your life would be today if you had just made a different left turn back in 1985. But as you cross into your 70s, a quiet, undeniable reality hits you. The past is a locked room, and the key was thrown away long ago. You can stand in front of that closed door, pounding on it with your fists and staring at it until your eyes burn, but it will never open back up. Constantly looking backward doesn't fix a single mistake, heal a single heartbreak, or change a single outcome. All it does is steal the exact thing you have left to enjoy, the precious, irreplaceable present moment. Staring at what went wrong yesterday completely blinds you to the warmth, beauty, and quiet joy that is waiting for you right now. The real breakthrough happens when you finally stop expecting your past to be perfect. Life was never designed to be a clean, flawless performance where you hit every note correctly. It was meant to be a messy, unpredictable, raw experience filled with trial, error, triumph, and failure. Every wrong turn you took, every awkward mistake you made, and every detour you suffered wasn't a wasted moment. It was a building block. Those missteps carved out your resilience, taught you empathy, deepened your wisdom, and shaped the exact, unique human being you are sitting in your chair today. Once you truly accept this, the heavy weight of regret melts away into a deep, soothing sense of peace. You stop judging your younger self for making choices with a mind that hadn't learned the lessons you know now. You forgive yourself for not knowing better back then, and you let go of the fantasy of a perfect life story. You lay down the heavy burden of what could have been, take a deep breath, and finally make full peace with the incredible, beautifully flawed story of what actually was. 4. Keeping up appearances. From the moment you enter adulthood, society feeds you a very specific, persuasive lie. Your value as a human being is measured by the image you project to the world. You are quietly conditioned to chase status symbols, constantly upgrading to the right clothes, driving the right car, living in the right neighborhood, and showcasing a neatly polished lifestyle. You spend decades maintaining a shiny exterior, managing how your life looks from the outside, and ensuring that friends, colleagues, and complete strangers view you as successful and pulled together. It is a subtle, relentless rat race where you trade your hard-earned money and genuine personal peace just to buy items and adopt habits meant to impress people you barely even know. By the time you cross into your 70s, that shiny illusion completely shatters into a million pieces. You look at the fancy, uncomfortable dress shoes sitting in your closet, or the expensive, high-maintenance items in your garage, and you realize how much energy you spent serving an imaginary audience. The desire to look impressive vanishes, replaced by a deep, unwavering appreciation for real, unvarnished, practical comfort. You trade the tight, stiff suits for soft, breathable fabrics that let you move freely. You trade the fast, expensive vehicle for a reliable, easy-to-drive car that simply gets you where you need to go without a headache. Comfort wins over impression every single time, without a second thought. This shift isn't about letting yourself go or losing self-respect. It is about discovering what real dignity actually looks like. True dignity doesn't flex, shout, or demand attention from the room. It is quiet, effortless, and rooted deep within who you are, needing no outside validation, applause, or audience to feel complete. You stop caring whether your lifestyle looks lavish on the outside because you are too busy enjoying how peaceful and smooth it feels on the inside. You buy what feels good, live where you feel safe and relaxed, and organize your days around personal ease rather than public display. Dropping the exhaustion of keeping up appearances is like shedding 100 pounds of dead weight. You no longer waste a single dollar or a single second trying to prove that you have made it in life, because you know in your heart that you already have. You step out of the endless cycle of consumerism and status chasing, stepping instead into a space of pure, unpretentious freedom. You finally get to live your life entirely for yourself, surrounded only by the things and people that bring genuine warmth, ease, and quiet satisfaction to your everyday world. 5. Trying to please everyone. For decades, many people live with an invisible, exhausting habit, trying to keep everyone around them happy. You bend over backward to avoid conflict, say yes when your heart is screaming no, and reshape your schedule to fit everyone else's needs before your own. You play the peacekeeper, the helper, and the dependable friend, constantly walking on eggshells so you don't offend, disappoint, or upset anyone in your circle. But after half a century of juggling other people's emotional expectations, a harsh yet incredibly freeing realization hits you like a cold glass of water. You can do every single thing right, bend until you break, and still end up disappointing someone. Trying to please everyone is a fixed trap that burns through your energy and leaves your emotional tank completely dry. When you make your life about keeping the crowd satisfied, you gradually hand over the keys to your own happiness to people who aren't even driving the car. By the time you pass 70, you simply run out of patience for this endless balancing act. You realize your remaining time and mental bandwidth are far too precious to waste on people-pleasing. You finally stop stretching yourself thin to keep others comfortable, and you begin protecting your personal peace like the valuable asset it is. This is the glorious stage of life where no transforms into a complete sentence that requires zero long explanations, excuses, or apologies. When an invitation, a request, or a favor feels like an unnecessary burden, you learn to decline gracefully and directly, without feeling a shred of misplaced guilt. You discover that setting firm boundaries isn't cold, selfish, or mean. It is the ultimate act of self-respect. Protecting your boundaries simply means you value your well-being enough to stop letting the rest of the world run you ragged. The most incredible outcome of this transformation is what happens to your social circle. The moment you stop trying to please the crowd, the superficial relationships that depended on your compliance naturally fade away, and your true relationships finally have the space to thrive. The people who genuinely love and respect you will never demand that you sacrifice your own peace just to make them happy. By stepping out of the people-pleasing trap, you leave room only for authentic, balanced connections built on mutual respect, where you can finally be loved for who you truly are, rather than what you can do for others. 6. The fear of being alone. During your younger years, being alone can feel like a silent threat hanging over your head. You spent decades running away from quiet moments, filling every empty space in your day with constant noise, background television, endless social obligations, and digital distractions. If the house grew still, a sudden wave of restlessness or anxiety would creep in, making you feel like you needed to reach out, stay busy, or find someone, anyone, to fill the void. Society trains us to equate being by ourselves with being unwanted or abandoned, so we treat our own quiet company like a problem that constantly needs to be solved. Once you step across the threshold of 70, a quiet, wonderful shift happens, and your entire relationship with quietness completely changes. Solitude stops feeling like a cold, empty room you are trapped in, and starts feeling like a wide-open, sunlit space where you can finally breathe. You realize that loneliness and solitude are two entirely different experiences that have nothing to do with each other. Loneliness is a painful ache, born from feeling like something vital is missing inside you. Solitude, on the other hand, is a rich, peaceful state where you realize that absolutely nothing is missing at all. In this season of life, sitting alone with a hot cup of tea in the morning isn't a sign of isolation. It is a sacred luxury. You stop filling the silence with meaningless chatter or frantic busyness because you no longer fear your own thoughts. You spend hours reading, gardening, walking, or simply watching the afternoon light shift across the floor, completely unhurried and entirely at ease. You no longer look to external crowds, noisy gatherings, or constant validation to make you feel complete, because you have finally built a deep, unbreakable friendship with the person staring back at you in the mirror. Learning to genuinely enjoy your own company is one of the greatest forms of freedom you will ever unlock. You don't seek out solitude out of bitterness or a desire to push the world away, but because your inner world has become a peaceful sanctuary. You can enjoy being with others when it feels right, but you no longer depend on anyone else to make you feel whole, secure, or entertained. You are finally content just being with yourself, fully comfortable in your own skin, and deeply at peace with the quiet moments of your life. 7. Holding on to old grudges. Holding on to old grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. For years, you might carry around a heavy sack filled with ancient arguments, broken promises, family feuds, and deep betrayals from decades past. You replay those old scenes in your head late at night, nursing the resentment, keeping the anger fresh, and waiting for the day when the person who hurt you finally realizes what they did wrong. But as the decades roll by, an undeniable truth hits you right in the face. The person who caused you pain is likely going about their day, completely oblivious, while you are the one sitting in the dark, drinking the poison of your own bitterness every single afternoon. When you pass 70, you look at that heavy sack of old resentments and realize just how much energy it takes to carry it everywhere you go. Bitter memories do absolutely nothing to punish the past. All they do is ruin your present. Every minute you spend fuming over a 30-year-old feud is a minute stolen from your joy, your peace, and your remaining time on this earth. You suddenly see that holding on to anger doesn't make you strong or righteous. It just makes you exhausted. Carrying old pain around becomes a useless, draining weight that you simply no longer have the time or interest to bear. This is the moment when forgiveness takes on a whole new meaning. You realize that forgiving someone has nothing to do with excusing what they did, pretending the pain didn't happen, or even inviting them back into your life. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to the person who hurt you. It is a gift of pure liberation you give to yourself. It is a conscious, deliberate choice to declare, "What you did was wrong, but I am no longer going to let your past actions dictate my present happiness." It is about severing the invisible chain that ties your peace of mind to someone else's past mistakes. The second you decide to drop that weight, the physical and emotional relief is immediate and overwhelming. You unclamp your fists, take a deep, clean breath, and let the old grudges fall to the floor where they belong. You stop wasting your precious energy on people who are long gone and start pouring it into the moments, places, and loved ones that bring you light today. Dropping the weight of bitterness instantly makes you feel lighter, freer, and more genuinely at peace than you have in years, giving you back the full beauty of the road ahead. There is a massive common misconception that growing older inevitably makes life harder, heavier, and more complicated. People spend their younger years terrified of aging, assuming that the golden years are defined entirely by loss, fading energy, and creeping limitations. But those who have actually walked the path past 70 will tell you an entirely different story. Getting older doesn't complicate your existence. It strips away the clutter and makes life exquisitely, beautifully simple. The friction of your youth was never caused by the passage of time. It was caused by the overwhelming weight of everything extra you were desperately trying to hold on to. When you make the deliberate decision to drop the unrealistic expectations, tune out the performative noise of society, and walk away from the artificial pressure to constantly achieve, a magnificent clarity settles over your days. You suddenly find yourself with the time, space, and quiet focus to actually enjoy the things that were truly important all along. A warm cup of morning coffee enjoyed in complete stillness, an honest conversation with a lifelong friend, the laughter of a grandchild, or a calm walk in the afternoon sun stops feeling like brief interruptions in a busy schedule. They become the main event. You stop treating life like a high-stakes competition you have to win, and start treating it like a precious, peaceful gift you simply get to experience. The ultimate power of letting go is that it restores your ownership over your own story, handing you back the peace of mind you spent decades sacrificing for minor things. You stop waiting for the world to validate you, stop letting the past haunt you, and stop letting the fear of the future rob you of today. You realize that true wealth isn't found in what you gather, accumulate, or control, but in how much useless weight you have the courage to lay down along the way. Releasing those heavy burdens isn't a sign of weakness or surrender. It is the single most powerful act of self-respect you will ever perform, opening the door to the lightest, most genuinely satisfying chapter of your life? Now, I want to hear directly from you. What is one specific thing, burden, or worry that you have completely stopped caring about as you've gotten older? Take a moment to drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your personal experience, wisdom, and story might be the exact blueprint or reminder another viewer desperately needs to hear today. If this message resonated with your heart and brought you a sense of clarity, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend who could use a gentle reminder to let go.